Hi guys, welcome back. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shaylor, and today I wanted to do a more serious sit down talk about a topic that I feel like isn't really publicized very much. As you can tell in the title, it's my experience of when I had postpartum depression. I do want to do a disclaimer. I am not a physician, I'm not a doctor, solely my personal experience with postpartum. If you feel like you are experiencing symptoms, please consult a doctor, consult your physician, tell somebody who is a professional. I'm just doing this to share my story, and I do want to help anybody out there who also might be feeling this way to really seek professional help. So let's go ahead and get started with this story. My first symptoms of postpartum was when I had my son in 2014. He is my firstborn. My labor was fairly easy. I would say I was in the hospital for 12 hours, which is quite a long time, but not as long as some of other people's first delivery. So I had my son, and there was a lot of complications. Now, if you want to hear my labor and delivery story, I could do one, but I mean, it's been 6 years. But anywho, I gave birth to my son, and it took 12 hours, and I had to stay in the hospital for an extra day. I was there for 3 days, I think, because I had complications, like I said. And if you want to go in, if you want more depth of that story, we can do a different video. But we came home, and we're exhausted because we were in the hospital for 12 hours. And you guys, I did not get an epidural. I did it all natural. The only thing I did get was what is it called when they bring on the contract? I forget what it's called. It's been 6 years, but they gave me those things to bring your contractions on. So that was the only thing. I did have him naturally. I did not get an epidural. So I was tired, guys, and I was hungry. And my husband was tired and he was hungry. And we came home from the hospital, and we're exhausted. And, having a newborn, it's very, 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 I felt very, very overwhelmed. And I'm sure everyone feels overwhelmed because you're tired, you're hungry, you have this baby that is solely dependent on you and your husband, significant other, and it's very overwhelming. You're tired, the baby wakes up all sorts of hours of the night and it's crying for no reason. So I felt very overwhelmed. And I remember my husband did not take a lot of time off of work for baby bonding. If I remember correctly, I think he only took a few weeks off, or a month maybe. I can't really remember. So the symptoms that I first started noticing was that I had no patience. I really had no patience. I was irritable. The slightest little thing just set me off. I would get very angry and uncontrollably angry, by the way. And I blamed my husband a lot for a lot of things, which I feel was also a symptom, because I didn't know it at the time, but he was doing a lot. I'm sure he was doing a lot for the family. I was on medical leave, so he had to provide for the family by himself financially, which is very stressful for people. He had to provide food, and also in my culture, we have to be on this 30-day chicken diet, boiled chicken diet with herbs, and so he would have to make that for me every single time I was hungry. And I remember he wasn't really on top of it, so when I was hungry, because I was nursing, when you nurse, you get hungry so fast because all those nutrients are going to the baby. So whatever you eat, the baby's eating. And I was so hungry, and he hadn't made any food, and I was so angry, because I was so hungry and he didn't have the food ready. And I remember that. And I feel like I was really harsh on him. And guys or significant others, please be more understanding, because the person who just gave birth like has gone through something very life-changing. Like, you just gave birth. So please don't take all of this like blaming people, like blaming you too personal, because I feel like it was part of the postpartum where I blamed my husband for a lot of things. And he was, he was tired too. He would do a lot. He would change the baby's diapers all the time, which, by the way, when I had my son, I never changed his diaper when he had the tarry poop. So I never did that because he would do it. So he would change all of the tarry poop diapers and majority of the regular poop diapers too. He would feed the baby in a bottle. If I had breast milk in a bottle, he would hand me the baby, or he would hand me our son when I would need to nurse. So, like I would nurse in bed, or I would use a nursing pillow. It's called a breast friend, and he would hand me our son so I could nurse, because how else would you do it? You just lay the baby down and then get them ready. So he would do that for me, and he would wake up all hours of the night and stay up with the baby crying like all the time for no reason. Like, you're fed, your diaper's clean, and you're just crying. He did do a lot. He did. And it was very stressful for him too, which at the time I was not very understanding. So everyone, partners, please be more understanding of each other. So the thing that really kind of made me realize that something was wrong, like, because there's postpartum blues, and then there's postpartum depression. So when you have postpartum blues, that means that, you get all these symptoms. Oh, you feel overwhelmed. Oh, you're exhausted. You're irritable. All these same exact symptoms as postpartum depression. The only difference between postpartum blues and postpartum depression, and this is from, by the way, like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist, doctor, I'm not a professional. This is just from my experience. Postpartum blues, this is what I was told, postpartum blues, the difference between the two is that the postpartum depression they're all the same symptoms. The only difference is when you have postpartum depression, you have harmful thoughts. Now that includes harmful thoughts to yourself and harmful thoughts to your baby. The very first symptom that I realized that something was wrong was when my husband had just started going back to work, and I was alone with the baby. And my husband, he worked graveyard shifts, okay guys? So I was alone by myself with a newborn baby. And so he would be gone and I would be by myself with the baby, and they would wake up at night and I would have to nurse and change the diaper. So I remember one night my son was crying, and I was just like spaced out. Like, he'd be crying and I would have no emotion, which, by the way, was also another symptom I noticed. It was really hard to bond with my baby. I feel like that bonding wasn't really there. There was like no sympathy or empathy or anything. Like, there was no emotion. I think that was another symptom. So that night he was crying and I just had no emotion, no sympathy. And he was laying on the bed and I was sitting up and he was just crying, and I started having harmful thoughts of harming my son. And I realized, and I texted my husband right away, which, guys, by the way, I have a box of tissues here because it might be a little emotional. I texted my husband right away, and I told him, I said, hey, I think something's wrong. Like, I have harmful thoughts. And you guys, his response was, oh, everything will be okay. Like, you're okay. Like, or what, he kind of just was like, oh, you'll get over it kind of thing, which, I mean, how would you respond to somebody who just texted you that? You know what I mean? And so I don't blame him for that. But guys, if you think something is wrong and you text your significant other and they say, oh, it'll be okay, like, it's not going to be okay. The biggest regret I have is thinking that it'll be okay, because it will not, okay? That was my biggest regret, was thinking it'll be okay, because I had those harmful thoughts, I remember, on 2 occasions, and I texted my husband on both of those occasions, and he responded the same exact way. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know what to do, and I felt like I was trapped. Like I was angry all the time, and I felt like I had no control over my body and my emotions. And, I was like, oh my God, like, am I going to be okay? Is this going to be okay? Like, so, I didn't see a specialist or anything. I didn't act or anything on my harmful thoughts, and I didn't act on my symptoms. So I didn't do anything. I just continued trying to be a new mom and nurse and everything. So I felt like gradually it got a little better, but I felt like those symptoms lasted a year. The harmful thoughts only happened on those 2 occasions, but all of the other symptoms, I felt like it lasted a whole year before I starting to feel a little normal. But here's the problem. I got pregnant again. So when my son was 11 months, I got pregnant with my daughter, my second child, my daughter. I had my 1-year-old son. By the time I had my daughter, he would be 1. So I almost 2. And so, oh my gosh, having my daughter, I was in labor for 13 hours with her, and having her was even crazier than the situation was even crazier than when I had my son, because my husband was out of a job. He had just recently been let go. And it was crazy how things fell into place, because he was so unsure of how he was going to take time off, because he had just gotten this new job, right? And he was only working there for like less than a year, I think, or like a few months. And he was so scared of trying to take time off when he's a new employee. So he was so concerned, and then they let him go, which was even worse. But it was crazy because they let him go literally the week before I gave birth to my daughter. And then they called him literally the day I had my daughter and told him that they wanted to hire him, because he was a contractor at the time. I had my daughter, in that same week, they called him and wanted him to come back as a full-time employee, which was crazy. And they wanted him to start like the following week. So he had the 2 weeks off unemployed. And that was when I had my daughter. So it was kind of crazy. So I had my daughter, and then we came home, being a mom of a toddler and a newborn. And then my husband isn't there because he has to go to work. And I was by myself, guys, with a toddler and a newborn. And I had previous symptoms of postpartum depression with my first child. I feel like if you have postpartum with your first child, you will have it again, which was true for me. So I had postpartum again, depression, with my daughter. After I had my daughter, I was even more overwhelmed because I had a really needy toddler and a really needy newborn baby. I don't really remember much about when I started noticing the symptoms with my daughter, but I remember having harmful thoughts. I remember we went over to my mother-in-law's place, and I was just feeling so like, emotionless, no sympathy, no empathy. And like I said, the smallest thing would set me off. So when we were there and we were visiting, I was nursing my son, and then like, I don't know what happened, but something happened where I think he spat up or something, but there was like breast milk just all over my pants. And I was like, that's it. I've had it. Let's go home. I was so upset. And then I had already told my husband too that I was having these thoughts, and he said the same thing. Or you know what? I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. He also was very, very, I'm sure he was concerned, but he doesn't really express himself. So he was trying really hard to help me, like, cause like I said, I felt trapped. Like I was telling him, like, I need help. And he kept asking, oh, well, what can I help you with? How can I help you? And it's like, when you are in that mental state of mind, you are crying for help. But the problem is, you're crying for help, but you don't know how to get help. It's like, I was telling him, I need help. And he was like, well, how can I help you? And I was like, I don't know, but I need help. And that's exactly how I felt So I was telling him this, and, I had already told him after I had my daughter that I was having harmful thoughts. And go back to the story of when we were at my mother-in-law's place, and, breast milk on my pants, and I was like, let's go. And so as we were getting ready to go, I had texted my oldest sister, and I had told her, sorry, I'm getting emotional, because this was my saving grace, guys. I had texted her and I told her, I said, I think I have postpartum depression. And she called me right away, you guys. And she called me right away and she said, are you okay? And I had realized that nobody has asked me all this time if I was okay, how I was doing. Like, not even my husband. Like, nobody had asked me how I was doing. And I thank God to this day that for my sister, because when she called me and asked me that, I broke down and cried. But I'm so glad that she called me, and I was able to tell her about how I was feeling. And you guys, if you are feeling this way, please, please, please tell somebody, okay? Anybody. Because that will make all the difference. And, she had her own kids, so she had her experiences to share with me so that we could relate. And, that's why I'm telling this story, because I want you to feel like you are not alone, and these are feelings that you will feel. And that's okay if you feel them, but the only difference is if you do have these feelings, or if you do get these symptoms, please, please, please tell somebody, and also consult a professional, which is what I did. So I'm going to get to that. But anyway, so my sister had called me and asked me how I was doing, and I told her, and I was crying, and then we got in the car and we went home, and I felt so much better when I told her how I was feeling. When I went back to my OB for my checkup, I told her how I was feeling, so that you might feel these symptoms like right away, and they might take a few days to actually show up. I had also told her that I was feeling postpartum depression symptoms. She was kind of like, okay, well, she kind of just brushed it off. Also, like, I think it's because it's not their professional field, so they don't really know. They can't really tell you anything. I don't know. Sorry, my camera cut off. But anywho, so I went to see my OB, and then I also went to go see my primary physician. And I also told her that I had symptoms of postpartum depression, and I didn't know what to do. And I was hoping she would be able to refer me to somebody. And I don't know if this is true for every physician, but she told me that she wasn't allowed to refer me so I had to go see a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and she was not allowed to refer me to either of those. And she said I had to look for them myself. So I don't know if it's just because of my insurance or because that's something that they can't do. So I was like, okay, so I got to do it myself. So I looked up a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Now, if you don't know the difference, a psychiatrist is the physician, or the psychiatrist is the doctor that can prescribe you medication, and they can fill out any sort of forms that you would need for your employer or anything. So they are the actual doctor. Now, the psychologist is just somebody, it's like therapy. Like, that's somebody you go to talk to somebody about, like, your problems. So they don't do any part of the, like, prescription or form filling. They just do therapy. So I looked up a psychologist and then also a psychiatrist, and I scheduled my psychologist appointment first because she had more availability. On my first appointment, I went to go see her, and you guys, I cried so bad on my first appointment. And it's funny because they probably already expect you to do that, because she had a box of tissues next to the couch I was sitting on. And I was like, I gotta use these box of tissues because I'm crying. So I saw my psychologist first. And you guys, I feel like, even though I was going to the psychologist to talk about my, my concerns and stuff and therapy, I was so glad that I was able to get out of the house like by myself and set some time just for me to go and talk about my concerns and my, how I was feeling and, all of this stuff. And I'm so glad that I did that. And anywho, sorry. And then I finally saw my psychiatrist, and he was recommending that I go on this very low dosage of Zoloft, I believe, because I was nursing. And he was like, oh, it's not going to affect your breast milk or anything, and it's not addictive or anything. So I was like, because I was really concerned. I was like, I really, really don't want to, I don't want to be on medication, you guys. Like, I feel like it's such a taboo topic. Like, you don't want to be on medication for postpartum depression, and like, I remember telling my psychologist on my first appointment with her, I told her, I was like, I don't want to be on any medication. I want to do this by myself with my, with my own will. And I don't want to be on any medication. I want to try this first and try to get over it without any medication. And I think I saw her like once a week. And then I saw the psychiatrist, and he had prescribed me Zoloft. And, I was like, okay, I'll get it. But it's like, I'm not going to take it until I really feel like I need them, So he was like, okay, it's not going to harm you, but, go ahead and get it anyway. So, and I also cried at that appointment because they kind of also want you to talk about how you're feeling and your symptoms and stuff. And that was when he told me the difference between postpartum blues and postpartum depression. And I was telling him all of my symptoms with postpartum, except I was leaving out the harmful thoughts until like the very end. And I remember him saying, oh, well, I think you don't have postpartum depression. I was like, well, I have harmful thoughts. And he goes, oh, okay, well, then you do, like, you have postpartum depression. And he was like, who, and I remember him asking me, who have you told? And I told him, I told my husband, I told my doctor, I told my OB, I told the psychologist. And he was like, I don't think he was expecting me to like list all these people that I've told. I don't know. People are kind of secretive about those type of things, I guess. I don't know. But I told a lot of people. And so I go home after my psychologist appointment or psychiatrist appointment, and I was not taking the Zoloft yet, and I still was feeling the same exact symptoms, guys. I was really overwhelmed. I was really irritable. I was not bonding with my baby, and I really, really regret that because I wish I had done it sooner so that I could bond with my infant, my newborn. And you guys, the reason why I'm getting emotional is because I want you to feel, because at the time I felt like I was like a failure because I was feeling these feelings and then I was not bonding with my baby. And you guys, please don't blame yourself, okay? It is not your fault. Please don't blame yourself. You are not a bad mom. And so I go home, and then a week, I have those same symptoms for an entire week before I go back to see my psychologist. And I remember at that appointment, I was telling her, she's like, well, how are you doing? And I was like, you know what? I need the drugs, which is exactly what I said. I need the drugs. And so I think I had tried the Zoloft like a few days before I went back or something. I can't remember. And when I took the Zoloft, you guys, I immediately, like after I took the Zoloft, felt better. And that was crazy to me. Like, I immediately felt like I was the most relaxed person ever. Nothing fazed me, and I could handle all of these situations where the babies are crying and needy. And so when I went to see my psychologist for that second week, I told her that I needed the drugs. And, I did try to do it on my own, and it just wasn't working. And so I was like, I'm going to try this and see if it helps. And it did, you guys. It really, really did. I wasn't on the Zoloft for very long. And it wasn't that big of a dose, and there wasn't that many pills in there. But I remember, I can't remember who told me. I can't remember if it was my psychiatrist, I believe, or my primary, but I was told that when you have a baby, maybe it was my OB, like half of your hormones go to the baby. So there's a scientific study, I guess, where postpartum depression is brought on by hormonal imbalances. And so when you have a baby, like half of your hormones or however many portion of your hormones go to the baby, and like your body's like, whoa, like what's going on? Like we're low on hormones, and like you just start getting these weird symptoms. And for me, it was postpartum depression. The reason why the Zoloft, I think, worked right away was because it helped balance the hormonal imbalance in my body. And I think that's why I felt so much better. And you guys, I think I took Zoloft for a little bit. I wasn't on it for very long because, I still didn't want to be on drugs. And so I wasn't on it for very long. And, I started feeling a lot better, you guys. I really did. And I continued going to see my psychologist, and I continued seeing my psychiatrist for forms or, prescriptions, and he also, likes to ask how you're doing and be updated on how you're feeling. And you guys, I felt so much better. I really did. And I just want to say that I'm so thankful for the support system that I have. I'm so thankful for my husband, because at the time I really wasn't. I was blaming him for everything, and he was getting upset with me about it too. But I'm so thankful for him, because he did do a lot. He, took care of the kids, and tried to give me some time. And I'm really, really, really thankful for my older sister. And, she means a lot to me. She's like my second mom growing up, because we have such a big age gap. I think we have like an 8 year age gap. And so she was like a second mom to me growing up. And I'm so thankful to this day for her, for calling me, and just asking me, are you okay? And that's really all you really need. Are you okay? Like, how are you doing? And I love her so much, and I'm so thankful for her. And I'm also thankful for the professionals, my OB, even though she didn't really do much, my primary physician and my psychiatrist and my psychologist. And they're just, I felt like even if they gave the smallest contribution, or even if they just listened to what I had to say, like, I want to thank them for, being such a great team. I really hope that what you take from this is that, from the words of Meghan Markle, that's where I heard it from first, it's okay to not be okay. And what she means by that is it's okay to feel these feelings. But for me, I feel like it's okay to feel these feelings. And if you do feel like something's wrong, you should get some professional help, guys. Okay? Because I have seen so many new moms, or so many people, so many articles out there that where they have these symptoms and they didn't get help. And, you know, there's those articles that you see where, oh, new mom kills her, or mom kills her newborn baby and toddler or whatever. And it's like, or drown them or something. And it's like, that's exactly, that is probably brought on by postpartum depression. That, and I think that's what people don't understand is, thankfully, I never acted on my thoughts. I'm so thankful for that. But some people do. Please, 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 if you feel like something is wrong, please consult a professional. Okay, and I'm so glad that I did. It really helped me, and I'm so glad for that. But anyway, I was saying I've witnessed a lot of new moms who have symptoms that are similar to that, and I see like marriages falling apart from it, and I'm so glad that my marriage didn't. You know, I'm so glad that I got help. And you know, I feel like even now I feel like I still feel like I, you know, get irritable because kids are irritating, but I love them and I enjoy their company, and you know, I'm able to bond with them. I forgot to mention a story of I had uncontrollable anger, like I was saying, and I remember this is how I felt. I felt like when I had my angry bouts, I felt like I floated from my body, like, and was somewhere else, and I was watching myself acting crazy. And this is how I felt. I literally felt like I was turning into She-Hulk. That's how angry I felt. Like I couldn't control. I couldn't bring, you know how like when you get really angry and then you kind of just calm yourself down? I couldn't calm myself down. Like I had no control over that. And that was one of the symptoms. But I remember that's how I felt. Like I floated out of my body and like watched myself turn into She-Hulk. And it was very scary, guys. So, that's my story for today. I hope it wasn't too lengthy. I hope it wasn't too offensive. And I really hope that if you are feeling this way or have any symptoms, please consult a professional. This topic really hits close to home for me because I've been through it, and I really, really want to help anybody who, you know, is experiencing these type of symptoms, or, you know, I just want everyone to know that there is help out there. Like when I felt trapped, I didn't know how to help myself. That's how I felt. But the thing is, there is help out there. There are people out there who want to help you, and they know how to help you. And that makes all the difference, is somebody who wants to help you and somebody who knows how to help you, because I didn't know how. So I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments down below. Maybe I'll do another story time. But thank you for tuning in. I hope it wasn't too emotional or offensive. So I hope to see you in my next video, and I hope everyone is healthy. I hope everyone is staying inside, and I hope everyone is staying safe. Okay, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye. So, where was I getting at? So, like, I remember what I was saying. Oh, my eyelash is coming off.